Well, welcome back to part 2. We are here with Ashley and Inger, of course.
And Gina.
And Gina.
Yes, thanks, Gina. Ashley Jangro, thank you for joining us for part 2 of your amazing story. And your business coaching was what we heard about last week. And then also this week we're going to talk about your therapy practice and your personal coaching, because you do all of that. But I know you had some questions, right?
I want to know who you are. Who is Ashley?
Yes, and I shared a little bit of my story during the last episode, but yeah, I'm happy to share.
What did you want to know? How she has what? 6 kids?
Oh, well, I know personally that she has 6 kids. And see, look at that smile on her face. How is that possible? Just kidding.
Right?
To all my kids out there. Yeah.
Kids are so easy, right? Yeah. Yes, I do have 6 kids. I'm part of a blended family. We're kind of like the Brady Bunch. I have 3 daughters, and most of them are adults now. My husband has a daughter and 2 sons, and his 2 sons and my 2 oldest daughters are all kind of the same age. Oh, wow. So what's very cool is they all decided to go to CU. So we have 3 up at CU now, and then another one that's starting in the fall. And so they like hang out, have sibling dinners.
So you'll have 4 at CU? Or
we'll have 4 at
oh
CU.
My gosh.
Yep, next year we'll have 2 juniors, a sophomore and a freshman at CU.
Wow.
Then I still have one in high school, and then our oldest daughter is an adult, so she's off on her own. And you know, the college kids are.
Does CU give you like a
group discount?
Volume discount?
Right? They should, right?
You should have a gold card.
I know.
With them.
Thank goodness they all got in-state tuition. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, good. Wow.
Yeah. So, but it's really fun. I mean, you know, you have adult children too, so you know, and you do as well. You have one at CU.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So between the 2 of us, we have 5 there, right? So, but I'm having so much fun with adult children. I mean, yes, like I enjoyed most stages, not every stage, but I enjoyed most stages, but this one is just the most amazing. It's so much fun.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it must be, if you're able to keep smiling,
right,
and coming out and helping clients and doing all the things, then it must be going well.
I mean, you've already coached your kids and your family, and now you're continuing to do this.
It's so funny though, because you know, it's different for each child, but my oldest daughter, I heard a lot, like, I need mom, not coach, not therapist. I just want to talk to mom right now. And then my other 2 will often come and say, okay, I need a coach on this one. And so I kind of know, like, they want to vent, and I need to just listen to them vent and allow them, and you know, tell them I hate that person too, versus if I'm going to coach them.
Or fix it, help them fix
yep.
it.
Do they know when you're trying to, like, you know,
yes.
figure out their brain?
The number of times I heard, "Don't coach me, mom." Yep.
Well, then, is it hard for you to not say something? Like, do you have to just bite your tongue sometimes?
All the time. And I have to pull back and think, okay, this is not a teaching moment. This is not a coaching moment.
Later?
Yep. We can talk about that later. And typically, they come back later and say, okay, I need to think about this differently. Like, help me see this differently. One of the things that I found was the most effective when I really did want to coach them and I really did want them to learn something was not to try to teach, not to try to coach, but to model myself doing it. So I remember one of the times that one of my daughters and I were having a conflict, and I had a moment. I call it the whoosh. Like, I had a whoosh of emotion. Very scientific, right?
A whoosh, I like that.
Like, you know that feeling where it just like takes over your body and you can like feel it behind your eyeballs. And I said to her, I was like, I need to pause you for a second because, you know, I know it wasn't your intention, but what you just said, I have a really strong feeling of rejection right now. And so I used one of the tools that I teach all of my clients, which is to process an emotion. And so I stopped, I paused her, and I like closed my eyes, and I told her exactly what I was doing. I'm like, I have to go inside my body right now because I cannot think straight. So I explained to her, and this is going to sound really strange, but this is what I do. I find the emotion in my body. I find the outline of it. I find the shape of it. I find the color of it. And I describe it to myself mentally and I was saying this out loud to her. I describe it in all the physical ways I can. What's the temperature? Does it move? Is there any movement? Does it stay still? Would it be heavy or light if I were to take it out? What's the texture? And I was saying all of this out loud. The reason I do that is because, you know, when you're having an intense emotion, your brain starts spinning. I'm giving my brain a job so that it can't spin. So I'm assigning it a job to identify where this. Yeah, and it's a distraction. But what I'm doing overall is I'm allowing the emotion to exist in my body. So I'm teaching my brain, this is not a danger. This is not an emergency. We're safe here. It's not a big, scary monster. And that's one of my favorite phrases is emotions are not an emergency.
Right.
And so I allow it to exist in my body. And what's interesting is studies have shown that when you allow an emotion like that, they typically last about 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Which was mind-blowing the first time I heard it, because I thought, think of all the decisions, the poor decisions I've made to avoid an emotion, when really I was avoiding 90 seconds of an intense feeling.
Right.
So I continued to do that. And what happens is, then when you go back to try to find the outline again, you notice it's begun to dissipate. Yeah. And it's almost like a wave. Like the emotion gets really intense and it's like a wave, it begins to pass. So I was describing all of this to her out loud. And I remember opening my eyes and she had tears going down her face. And she crawled across the couch and sat on my lap. You know, she was 16 at the time, but still like 90 pounds. She's tiny. So either way, I would have let her on my lap. But she said to me, she was like, I want to learn to do what you just did. And it had nothing to do with me saying, okay, you're having a big emotion, let's go inside your body. It was her watching me do it and model it, and I wasn't faking it.
I want to do it.
I would, right? Interesting. And it was a very intense moment. It's giving me goosebumps to talk about, because then the next time, I don't know if she necessarily told me or not that she was doing it, but the next time she had an intense emotion, she had seen the power of it as opposed to being taught. Right. And so it was a very powerful moment. So while I don't necessarily say, hey, do you want coaching on that? I model it for myself.
I love that story. And I love, a lot of things were going through my head as you were telling it. It kind of made me think about back in the day. It's a better version of some of the things we were taught a long time ago, which was to count to 10. Count to 10.
Breathe.
Deep
breaths.
Because all of those things you mentioned takes time, literal physical time, to think of all those things.
Yes.
And when you said when you go back and to visualize it again, and then it's dissipated, makes me think of a dream.
Yes.
When you I'm in a great dream and I don't want to wake up, and you try to go back into that dream
And remember
and I'm like
details of it.
and you're like, it's ethereal and it's gone. And it's almost kind of, so those two things together kind of reminded me of this technique, but this technique encompasses all of that, but in a better way.
I cannot tell you, it is the most simple technique that you can imagine, and it sounds silly, but it has been life-changing for me. Yeah. You're talking about hearing some of my story. When I first got into therapy, I had all kinds of issues that I needed to work on, and I thought, becoming a therapist will help me work out my own life, right? And it didn't.
Didn't?
I was trying different, right?
Like they must be the most put together person ever.
And I think that as therapists, we learn a ton of theory and we learn a ton of methodologies, but we were never taught to apply them to our own lives. And that was what was so different about my coaching program, is I was taught to do that. And boy, I started tackling things. I mean, the first thing I started tackling was, even though I wouldn't talk about it, I was really uncomfortable with how much I drank. I mean, for 20 years, right? Like I was taking down 1 or 2 bottles of wine a night. And I didn't want to talk about it. Like I had even taken an addictions class in grad school, and I didn't want to mention it. And I started.
1 to 2 bottles.
Is that
No, that's basically nothing. Yeah, right? And I didn't consider myself an alcoholic. I didn't consider myself addicted, but I felt uncomfortable, and I didn't think that I had the power to change it. So that was the first thing I tackled with myself with coaching. And I started really working with a set of tools that I have to first just change the habits around it, and then next to start addressing the emotions or the desire to create an emotion, right? Like fun or excitement, using alcohol. So I was either using it to avoid or to create. So once I started addressing the emotions, feeling the feelings that I was trying to avoid, and creating the feelings that I wanted alcohol to create for me, I lost interest. Like even right now, right? Like there's a glass of champagne sitting here and I forget that it's there, which never would have been the case before. And that, again, it's giving me goosebumps, because once I had like dealt with that in my life, I felt so powerful. I was like, if I could address that with these tools, I can do anything.
Wow.
So I used the coaching tools to deal with that, and then I used them to create my business and address the underlying issues that were making me avoid doing something that I knew I needed to do for my business, for example.
Yeah. Speaking of business, you know, last week we talked about business coaching, and we're kind of delving into more your personal coaching and your therapy. Have you ever taken on a client and maybe they came in for business coaching and you thought, oh, you're a better candidate for therapy or personal coaching, or vice versa? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, there's a set of ethics where I won't do coaching with someone who has been a therapy client, but I could go the other direction, right? So if I say, you know what, this would actually be a much better fit for you if you were in therapy, what generally ends up happening, and this is in the case where if I started talking with a coaching client and realized that they were having suicidal ideation, they were having thoughts of self-harm, anything that could, or harming someone else, which has never been the case, but I would refer them to a therapist, and I would say, you know, we can continue to work together as a coach. However, I need you to be in therapy. And then what I would do is I would get an ROI, a release of information, and collaborate with their therapist so that we were working in a collaborative fashion. But it's the same thing that we talked about last episode, where it's if someone is not functioning, if they're struggling to get out of bed every single day because of depression, then they need to be working with a therapist in addition to a coach.
Have you ever talked to a therapist or a business coach or a personal coach of any kind, Gina?
Not a personal coach, but I've been in therapy. I feel like, I don't know, this is my opinion, but I feel like everybody can use some therapy.
I think
And
What do you think, Ashley?
I absolutely.
What do you think,
I
Ashley?
absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I'm a big encourager of coaching specifically. Obviously, if you are struggling to function, therapy is such an incredibly valuable tool. If you are not and you just want something more, I think everyone should have a coach. I'll always work with a coach because I can't see what's inside my own head. Like some of the things that I believe are real, I need somebody else to just, you know,
Tell me the
question
pickle
me.
jar quote again. You
Yeah.
said that in the last episode.
Right. A pickle in the jar can't read its own label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need a coach to help.
Yeah. To see from the outside and just ask some really key questions that will offer perspective, that will get you out of that rut where you're thinking this is reality because it isn't.
Well, like you're drinking, like you said. That's
Yep.
interesting.
And it was, you know, fortunately, again, the coaching program I was in really emphasized self-coaching. So having a really strong self-coaching practice, which I realize now I'm doing all day, every day, where I'm recognizing, okay, I just perceived this situation in a certain way. Is that reality? Do I believe that? Do I like who I am when I'm believing that? And I'm questioning myself constantly, which can sometimes be exhausting. Sometimes I have to like take a step back and take a break from that and just exist. But because it's such a habit, I'm doing it constantly. And if you think about all of the different situations you're in where you perceive, oh, that person didn't really like me. And then you step back and start to question that and you realize, oh, maybe they're tired, maybe they're hungry, maybe, you know, whatever. And you just start to allow yourself to question, hey, I just made that my reality. There's so many instances where it's
I was
useful.
going to ask you about that because, you know, Ashley came and spoke with my team. And her topic for us was what is the story you're telling yourself? And I mean, after that hour of mind-blowing brilliance, my agents were coming up to me and saying, that is such an aha moment, not just in business, but in my personal life. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us, like just a snippet of what that was.
Sure, yeah. So what the way I think about it is our brain is creating interpretations and narratives constantly. And those aren't our fault. It's what our brain does because it values efficiency, because we need efficiency to stay alive. And its only job is to keep us alive. What we think is that we are our thoughts, right? In reality, we have this really incredibly powerful machine, and we are the observer. We're the coach of it, of this incredible machine, but it's not us. So when we learn to question those narratives, it allows us to see outside of that. Those narratives are coming from our upbringing and our trauma and how our parents raised us, and whether we got enough sleep or not, and if we had a good dream, right? Like, it's coming from all of that. But it feels like reality to us. And the reason it matters to question it is because our thoughts create an emotion in our bodies. That emotion drives our actions, and our actions pile up to create our life, right? It creates our results. And so learning to take a step back and become aware, it's just a narrative, what is it? And then challenge it. Ask ourselves, do I believe that's true? Who would I be if I didn't believe that was true? Is so useful. Did you start to say something?
Well, I was thinking, do you have an example of a situation that you can, like, just to make it more, I don't know, I'm just curious.
Sure. Oh my goodness, I have so many examples. I mean, we talked about the examples in business terms of if you're a real estate agent and you think, oh, everybody's a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. That creates an emotion in your body of maybe resistance or frustration, and then you don't show up with confidence to events. You don't introduce yourself. You don't talk about your role as a real estate agent because you're like, they probably already know somebody. Yeah. And then you don't get new clients.
Right.
An example that I love to bring up in my personal life is one of the days that I heard my husband slamming doors. He was walking around the house slamming doors, and I'm like, he's mad at me. He's angry with me. He's being passive aggressive. He's, and you can imagine the emotions that came up in me. I was like getting all like, I didn't do anything. That's fine, right? I was angry. I was frustrated. Pause. Hold on. Do I believe that? Do I think he's angry with me? I'm like, evidence is not showing there's any reason for him to be. There's nothing going on. I allowed myself to question other things. Maybe he's frustrated with work, maybe something else. What it really turned out to be was we had been painting, we'd taken the doors off. When we put them back on, the hinges were different. So when he was closing doors with the same force he always did, they were slamming now.
Oh my gosh.
Had nothing to do with him being angry at all. But if I had allowed that narrative, it would have created that anger. My anger would have had me showing up like, with a bit of an attitude. Yeah. Right. And then he would have reacted to that. It would have created a different result than if I allowed myself to question it.
And that anger, that has a ripple effect, right?
Yes.
Because you could have just internalized it, and well, he's mad at me. Mm-hmm. And then talk to one of your kids, and then you're mad at them. Yep. For whatever reason, because you haven't dealt with the fact that he's mad at me and I don't know why, so I'm going to just, you don't even consciously do that.
And then imagine, in their mind, they're like, oh, mom's mad at me. It's probably because I'm not doing really well at school and I didn't empty the dishwasher. So then they're like frantically over there trying to empty the dishwasher and like please me. And I'm like, I was never mad at you. What are you talking about? And really it was a reaction, right? So it just keeps going.
So after she did this session with us, I mean, you go throughout your day, if you identify every time you're telling yourself a story, and she gave us this great tool to just ask yourself, is this reality or is this just a story I'm telling myself?
Yeah.
My client, a good one is not calling me back. Does that mean that they don't like me anymore? Does that mean that they're done with me? Or is this a story I'm telling myself?
Yeah. So, or are they busy?
Right. Or are they just busy?
Yeah.
Right. And you don't know. And the only reason it matters, because I talk to clients all the time who are like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's true. Like, I know he was mad when he was slamming those doors, right? And I'm like, it doesn't even matter, because if it's not a fact, meaning it could not be provable in a court of law, the reason it matters to question it is because it creates a feeling in your body. Then you show up a certain way because of that feeling, and that creates your results. So you're like, if I don't know that that's true, then why believe the thing that's going to make me feel terrible? Why allow that story in my life when I don't even know?
That's good information, and you're welcome out there, because this was very helpful to me. I learned something today, so.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You can tell the amount of passion I have when talking about this, because truly it completely changed my life.
Well, I mean, you've helped me, and I would say that I could sit here and talk to you all day.
Right.
But we probably have to wrap it up. Is there any last minute thing you want to nuggets of wisdom you can share with us that you can think of?
The one thing that I want to emphasize whenever I talk about this is using these tools is not designed to try to make you feel good all the time. Like, our lives are going to be 50% negative, 50% positive. Mm-hmm. And it's not designed to think positive or always have happy thoughts, right? It's just to create a level of acceptance of reality and understand that you can create different results when you start thinking differently, but I never want it to be mistaken for, I should switch all my thoughts to think positive all the time, because it doesn't work.
It makes me think of the movie. What's the name of that movie? Inside Your Head? Inside Out?
Oh, Inside Out, right.
The second one, that was the whole premise.
Yeah.
Is that the happy or joy tried to change all her thoughts to joy all the time. Yep. And that's just not healthy. You have to let sadness come through, and you have to let anger come through, and you have to let self-doubt and things come through to make you a whole person.
Yes.
But it almost sounds like you're verifying that movie is accurate.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that was deep.
It was so good.
know.
I think that was one of the best examples ever of exactly what's going on.
How wrong it can, how things can go really wrong.
Yes.
If you don't let your true emotions surface.
Yep.
And I bet as a therapist, it's you just understood it completely.
I loved it. I thought it was one of those where I thought everyone needs to see this and hopefully take it seriously despite the cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Despite Amy Poehler's excellent portrayal of joy.
Right? Yes. So good.
Will you come back sometime?
I would love to. I obviously love talking about this. So yes, I really appreciate the opportunity.
That's awesome.
Gosh, you've been just so helpful, and I just thank you, Gina, for helping with this, and thanks to all of our listeners and all of our viewers for tuning into another episode of Mind Your Business. I can't wait to see you next week. You're going to tune in next week too,
Of
right?
course,
Right.
absolutely.
You're
A committed listener now. Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
Thank you. All right, guys, thanks so much. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.